Hey friends, this is 2024 on Dolany TV. Glad to have you aboard as we get set up to do the first video from the studio of the year. And this is a weird but good one as well to be talking about entering the back half of the calendar for the Edmonton Oilers. Friends, well, the Oilers, they've got a pretty good defensive pair. In fact, it might be the best in the NHL at current this season in Evan Bouchard and Mattias Ekholm. Before we get too far, again, if you are new to the channel or you're returning and haven't hit that button yet, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button here on Dolany TV. Obviously, still pushing towards 15,000. We're very, very close now, and love to get there before, obviously, this month wraps up. All right, what am I talking about? Evan Bouchard, Mattias Ekholm. How in the world could they be the best defensemen in the NHL when they play for the Edmonton Oilers and the Oilers have no defense, as per public opinion? Well, let's read some stats here from Bob Stauffer, grabbing some stats off a natural stat trick. Now, friends, this is defensive ranks 5 versus 5, minimum of 100 minutes over the course of the season. So you're talking about the best even strength defenders in the NHL in terms of 3 categories, that being Corsi for percentage, where Mattias Ekholm is leading the way in first place at 62.76. By the way, Bouchard's in second, so when I'm saying the best defenseman, it is a 1-2 situation for Mattias Ekholm and Evan Bouchard. Of course, driving the play, that's basically what Corsi and Fenwick are all about, the CF percentage and the FF percentage. That's what it's more or less about, is how much of the drive of play is for the Oilers as opposed to against the Oilers. And when you're talking about a defensive pairing driving the play over 60% of the time, and we're talking about this being the de facto 1A, 1B kind of D pairing, whatever you want to call it, right? The line that gets the offensive assignments with Connor McDavid as opposed to the line that gets the defensive shutdowns. I get that. But Ekholm and Bouchard, even though they're getting perhaps easier assignments, you look at these ranks here for Corsi and Fenwick at 62+% on both percentages, putting them at 1 and 2. Friends, I'm sorry, that goes to show you that no matter what the assignment for Bouchard and Ekholm 5-on-5, whether it's with the 4th line, 3rd line, or with the top 2 lines, they're getting the job done and getting the puck north, getting the puck on the other team's net or towards the other team's net. So something I've long talked about when it comes to the Oilers here as somebody that does this whole YouTube gig is that I've always longed for the defensemen on the Oilers to shoot the puck, get it on net, create traffic, either score directly or get some deflections or rebounds and find a way to pile up the points. And quite simply this year, between Ekholm, Nurse, and Bouchard, we're seeing points piled up by Edmonton Oilers defenders unlike anything we've ever seen since maybe the Clefbaum-Sekera kind of timeline here in Edmonton. So pretty crazy to see, and obviously Bouchard on a historic pace as an Edmonton Oilers defender. I don't think anyone except for Chris Pronger is really going to stand in his way of achieving numbers this season. And even Pronger's probably not the best measuring stick when it comes to what Evan Bouchard is going to be capable of doing offensively for the Edmonton Oilers this season. And I think the funniest thing for me is I look back a few years ago, I did a video comparing Bouchard and Pronger and kind of saying like I found some big similarities and obviously some really big opportunities for Bouchard to model his game after Pronger. However, the one thing everybody seemed to laugh about to my memory, is the fact that I was like, oh man, Bouchard's able to crush a puck. Everybody kind of had their complaints early on about him, but now you're watching him the leader in 90+ mile-an-hour shots in the NHL. So big thing there. And here's where I'm really going at this. This is, I guess, directing the points situation here, is the expected goals for percentage. Evan Bouchard leads the NHL as a defenseman in 100+ minutes situations. So realistically for Bouchard, that's 5 games on the ice. For any defenseman that plays anything that should count towards these metrics, that's 5 games on the ice. So you look at this here, Bouchard at 64.83%, and second best behind him is Mattias Ekholm at 63.35. So, Ekholm obviously is going to be down on that numbers a little bit because just the situation he finds himself in, game out with the Oilers defense. He's kind of the guy that gets stuck out there sometimes, right? He gets stuck on the ice a little bit longer than maybe Evan Bouchard does. He's the guy that's the one that has to be back defensively for the Oilers most times. So, of course, those numbers, the expected goals for column is going to go down. But even considerably against Bouchard, you're talking about a 1.5% difference. And you're talking a big-time difference in caliber of offensive player between Bouchard and Ekholm. But again, when you play on the same line, that's going to even the playing field quite a bit. But at the same time, for Bouchard, you understand the assignment a bit more. And of course, for Ekholm, you do the same thing. And that's where you find the difference in numbers. But it's just alarming to see that actually, friends, despite the Oilers having no defense, they're limiting chances on net. That's what Corsi and Fenwick show. And they're also pushing the offensive envelope game in, game out with at least one good, best defensive pair in the NHL this season. Crazy to think, I know, but hey, it's been a crazy season so far, so why not enjoy another crazy little situation here midway through the year? Again, friends, for those of you not familiar with what happened after Anaheim last night, we move into third in the wild card spot for the time being. We're just outside of the playoff picture. And hey, you know what? By the end of next week, we could very well be in either the first or second wild card spot. That's just how razor thin this is. But again, one key thing will be the Oilers' defensive pair of Bouchard and Ekholm continuing to do what they've done all season. I think for a lot of people, you'd be the same as me. It was a very rough defensive start for Bouchard. Now, thankfully, he kept the offensive motor going to tread water while it was struggling. And then obviously with Paul Coffey coming aboard, that is going to be a huge help for a player like Evan Bouchard. But at the same rate, Paul Coffey's been able to stabilize the other 6 defensemen on the team, if you want to include Philip Broberg in there over a little bit, but obviously he hasn't been around much, so we won't worry about him. But you look at it here, the core 5 outside of Bouchard, Nurse and Ceci have stabilized significantly. Nurse's play has earned him the reputation of a $6 million defenseman, which again, you, me, and everybody else, I think at times over the past 3-4 years would have said he doesn't deserve $2 million, so fair enough. But now for Oilers fans to be honestly saying Darnell Nurse is a $6 million defenseman, that is insane given where we've come from with him. The complaints about Cody Ceci have leveled off again. Brett Kulak and Desharnais doing exactly what a big, tough third pairing of defensemen can do. Again, Desharnais's big, Kulak's tough. Again, we haven't seen it much this year, but just wait, we're going down the stretch. Kulak will start throwing the hands here in no time at all. But again, right, that has allowed at least one defensive pairing to rise to the top under Paul Coffey, and that is Mattias Ekholm and Evan Bouchard at current. So friends, today on January 1st, 2024, sit back, relax. The Oilers have the best defensive pairing in the NHL. Now that, again, terminology isn't quite correct for what a lot of people would say, but again, it's the best defensive pair in the NHL when it comes down to obviously playing defense at the NHL level. I don't know how to dumb this down anymore. I'm trying to dumb it down for me to understand it. But again, it was a late night, obviously staying up till midnight, long drive home from Sylvan, and away we go with this new year, 2024. I'm Tyson, this is Dolly TV. I am up on out of here.